Hello students, namaste to all of you. Today we are going to discuss about the chapter the demographic structure of Indian society. So before going to discuss about this chapter in detail, we are going to see what is the meaning of demography. In our offline classes we have seen the definition of demography. So what is demography? Demography is basically about the study of people, and this is a systematic study of people where we just try to find out how much population is there, and we use different methodologies to identify so that some reforms if required has to be taken. So let's see further. The term is of Greek origin. This demography term is of Greek origin and is composed of two words: demos means people and graphian means describe. Demography is a scientific, systematic study of population. Okay, two important processes: formation of nation, states, and growth of modern statistics. So there are basically two important processes: formation of nation states and the growth of modern statistics. Now we know what is the definition of demography. Demography had come from two words. One is demo and the second one is graphian. It is taken from the Greek word. Okay, the Greek word demo and graphian. So it describes about the systematic study of the people, about the population. Sorry. So let's see the further point. Demography studies the trends and processes associated with population, including changes in population size, pattern of birth, deaths, migration, and the structure and composition of the population, such as the relative proportion of women, men, and different age groups. So, demography studies a wide range of things about the size of population, about the pattern of birth, how much death rate is there, how much people have migrated. These all things comes under the category of demography. Now we have two types of demography that we will also see. Whenever we just have to study this demography, we just find out the gap between rich and poor, the things which a country has to do for the upliftment of the social status of people. That's why we need to do some work in this specific area. So that's why we have to do. So you know the demography is the systematic study of population, and social demography focuses on socio-economic and political aspects. That means demographic data and methods to describe, explain, and to predict social phenomena. Formal demography, on the other hand, focus on the quantitative aspect of the population only. Just like statistics and you can say the census, which has to be conducted after 10 years. The first census was conducted in 1951, and the last one has been conducted in 2011 in independent India. Okay. Now, social statistics, just like quantitative data, is being there, and we just have to analyze that data. What sort of needs are required to be done by the country so that the people live a good life. Okay. Now, all demographic studies are based on processes of counting and enumeration, such as the census or the survey. As I told you earlier, these demographic studies are related to quantitative analysis when we specifically talk about the formal demography, because it is uh, just a systematic collection of the data. Now, measurement of population is being given there. So, vital statistic is to be essential for taking the data. And by this, we just find out how much population is there and what sort of things are required to be done by a country. Now, some key concepts. We can organize different surveys, look at or examine something. We can conduct different census. It has to be done after 10 years. In 2021, the census has to be done, but due to COVID, it was stopped. So we can say that these things continuously goes on. First modern census took place in 1790 in America. This is the first census. I'm not talking about India, rather in whole world. If we just find out, uh, in which country this census is being done. In America, in 1790 it was done. Europe started it in 1800, and British government in India started conducting census in 1867 to 72. Regular 10-year census have been conducted since 1881. This was the regular 10-year census which was conducted by British government. And in independent India, as I told you earlier also, 1951, when the first census was conducted, in at 1947 we have got the independence, and 1951 the first census was conducted, and thereafter uh, continuously seven census has been conducted successfully till now. Now let's see the further part. Theories of demography. We have two theories of demography. The first one is Malthusian's theory of population growth, and the second one is theory of demographic transition. Malthusian theory of population growth talk about the effects of the counter effects of excessive population. He talk about two check, positive check, and preventive check. The second one is theory of demographic transition. It means when a population of underdeveloped country go to the process to the developed country. So that specific process from underdeveloped to developed is called theory of demographic transition. The Malthusian theory of population growth. Thomas Robert Malthus, 1766 to 1834, English political economist. And based on his book Essay of Population 1798, he had given some speculations, and we will see what he just tried to say here. He argued that human population tend to grow at a much faster rate than the rate at which the means of human subsistence, especially food, shelter, clothing, can grow. So actually, he just want to say us that human population grow faster than the resources. As I told you in the class also, that human population grow in a geometric progression, whereas these resources, the land resources, or you can say agriculture resources, your daily needs, they grow in a arithmetic progression. So if there is, you can say, if there is geometrical progression, just like the population growth, so it will be like 1, 2, 4, 8, 16, 32 dash dash. This is the geometric progression. So it grows too fast. And now if we talk about arithmetic progression, it is like that. 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, like this. That's why there is a difference. Means the supply is not that much in comparison to the population. Okay. So people are condemned to live in poverty. If the supply is not appropriate, if the supply is not there, then people are forced to live in a poverty. The growth of agricultural production will always be overtaken by population growth. Now we will see, while population rises in geometric progression, as I told you, agriculture production can only grow in arithmetic progression. So this is the main reason why this always happen, which is being emphasized by Malthus. The only way to increase prosperity is by controlling the growth of population. So Thomas Robert Malthus is very clear in his opinion. He said that if you want to make a specific country prosperous, then you must have to control the population growth. But human beings can control population growth only through voluntary methods, using preventive checks, postponing marriages, practicing sexual abstinences or celibacy. Oh, by using these things, these preventive checks, you can avoid the positive check. Positive, what is positive check? Positive checks like endemic, epidemic, pandemic, and different kind of natural calamities or which affect the population. So if we want to save ourselves from the positive check, we must have to adopt some preventive checks. These are man-made. We can use those checks so that we can avoid the positive check. Okay. Now, Malthusian theory: population and population rise in geometric progression, food production in arithmetic progression. Preventive check: postponement of marriage, celibacy, etc. has to be done. Family planning has to be done. Whereas positive check, when natural calamities are there, flood is there, flood, etc. So if we want to avoid those unfavorable circumstances, then we must have to put some preventive checks. Means we must have to prevent that. Now there are some criticism of Thomas Robert Malthus. Uh, the main critic of Thomas Robert Malthus are Marxists, the critics who are in the favor of Marxism. So European countries witnessed rapid growth and progress. Birth rate has declined and outbreaks of epidemic diseases were being controlled. Malthus' predictions were proved false because both food production and the standard of living continued to rise despite the rapid growth of population. This is the criticism of Malthus. They are saying that in Europe countries, what he is saying that if there will be the population control, if the population will increase day by day, then there will be a possibility that the positive check will be there. But in Europe countries, it never happened. Birth rate started declining. People became educated, and when the birth rate started declining, and some work has been done in the education sector also, then different health facilities are being provided. By the result, we have seen new some good hospitals in that specific country, and thus it make that country a very prosperous. So this was the criticism, which is of the theory of Robert Malthus. The critics argued that problems like poverty and starvation were caused by the unequal distribution of economic resources rather than by population growth. So what they are saying that population growth is not a problem. The problem is unequal distribution of resources. These arguments are given by these, you can say, uh, Marxist people who are inspired by that specific theory. So this is the argument which they are giving. Now let's see the further part. The theory of demographic transition. The theory of demographic transition suggests that population growth is linked to overall level of economic development. Every society follows a typical pattern of development related population growth. So there are basically three stages. First one is stage one, which is in which comes the underdeveloped countries. The second one is stage two, in which comes the developing countries, and the third one is stage three, in which comes the developed countries. So these three stages comes under the categories, and when a specific country is in a developing stage, then it is called the theory. It is called a demographic transition. So every country come to this specific stage. When they are at that stage, the birth control is not that much, but they are able to do the death control, do the control in death. So as a result, lot of population growth has been observed there. Let's see further. There are three basic phases of population growth, as I told you: first stage, second stage, and third stage. Low growth rate, that is underdeveloped and technically backward countries just like South Africa. High birth rate and high death rate. Second stage, very high death rate, developing societies. Birth rate, high birth rate, low death rate. So you can see here that population growth is too much in second stage. Now we will see the third stage. Low growth rate, developed society, low birth rate, and low death rate. Third one is the ideal state, and the first one is, you can say, very desperate state, where proper education facilities are not being given, proper health facilities are not given. That's why there is no control in the death rate. and because education is not given, that's why there is no control in birth rate. Whereas in second phase we can see that in health there are lot of work has been done, but in education the work is in process. That's why the birth rate is not that much controlled in comparison to the death rate. But one thing I would like to say you that uh, in comparison to the study of some previous data of India, we can say that education is being imparted and people are quite aware about it to do family planning. But when we are doing the analysis of our data with the other countries, other developing countries, then it has been observed that the population of our countries much in comparison to them. So we are trying to control the birth rate, but this process takes time. Okay, so that is the reason in second stage the population growth is too much high. Okay, now we will see the next. Now you can see here British deaths per 1000, and the birth rate, death rate, total population. Here you can see these are the birth and death rate of per thousand. Now the birth rate is decreasing and the death rate is also decreasing, whereas total population graph is being increased. This is the basic thing which we have to study about it in a developed country like USA and Britain. We can see that the birth rate is low and that the death rate is also low, but in developing countries and underdeveloped countries the birth rate is high, whereas in developing countries only the death rate is low. Here death rate is low, birth rate though it is also getting low, but there is some more need required to be done. Now, population explosion. Population explosion happens because death rates are brought down relatively quickly through advanced methods of disease control, public health, and better nutrition. That's why population explosion happens. So, why it happened? Because we can control the death rates, uh, but we can't control the birth rate that much successfully as we are controlling the death rate. Okay, because we can provide the health facilities, but we can't stop the people, we can't encourage them in a 1 or 2 day. It is a long process. People have to be motivated, they must have to be uh, inspired so that they can go for uh, family planning and they do some sort of these things which can be good for our country as well. Now, common concepts and indicator. Crude birth rate, this we had already discussed in a class. Crude death rate, growth rate, general fertility rate, total fertility rate, age specific fertility rate, infant mortality rate, maternal mortality rate, and life expectancy and sex rate ratio. Okay? So now we will see the explanation of crude birth rate. Total number of live birth in a particular area, an entire country, a state, or a district during a specified period, divided by a total population of the area in thousand. In other words, the birth rate is the number of live birth per 1000 population. Okay. So crude birth rate is equal to number of birth divided by total number of population multiply 1000. Now crude death rate. Total number of deaths in a particular area during a specified period divided by total population of that area in thousand. In other words, the death rate is the number of deaths per 1000 population. Crude death rate is equal to number of deaths divided by total number of population multiply 1000. Now, some facts are being given here. The government insists that every birth and death should be reported in the local police station or primary health center in villages and municipal corporation offices in towns and cities. The accuracy of the finding and demography depends mainly on the proper reporting of the birth and death rate. Only then we can get the accurate data. Okay. Growth rate. Growth rate is the difference between the birth rate and the death rate. So how we can find out the growth rate? Just subtract the birth rate and death rate and you will find out the growth rate. When this difference is zero or no difference, then we say that the population has stabilized or population reached the replacement level. This is the ideal state. It never happens. Uh, though at some level it happened, but it is not that much consistent. At some time it will break. New generation to replace the old one that are dying out. So this is the ideal state. Okay. Sometimes societies can experience a negative growth rate, that's their fertility level are below the replacement level. For example, Japan, Russia, Italy, and Eastern Europe, you can see that the older population is increasing, whereas the young population is not increasing at that much level. Why? Because health facilities are there, birth control is also done. That's why the new population is not there to replace the old one. Some societies experience very high growth rate, particularly when they are going through the demographic transition. So those societies who are having very high growth rate, just like India, why they are having high growth rate? Because the control has been done in the death rate, whereas the birth rate, that much control is not being established. But we are having young resources, we are having youth. That youth is going to replace the older generation. So this particular phase is called the phase of demographic transition. When they're going through the demographic transition, then the growth rate is higher. General fertility rate. It refers to the number of live births per 1000 women in childbearing age group, usually taken to be 15 to 49 years. So general fertility rate is equal to number of births divided by total number of women age 15 to 49 in a particular year, multiply 1000, you will get the general fertility rate. Then total fertility rate, total number of live births that an imaginary woman would have. So this is called total fertility. How can we find out the total fertility rate? For example, we have find out the age specific fertility rate. What is age specific fertility rate? From age 16 to 20, if we have find out the fertility rate, we will use the same formula which is being given here. And from 20 to 25, we will find out another, and 25 to 30, then 30 to 35, then 36 to 40, and then we will add all. After adding all, we will get the total fertility rate. Okay? This is called the total fertility rate. Age specific fertility rate. The age specific fertility rate is the number of live birth per 1000 women in a specific age group, 15 to 49 years, for a specified geographic area and for a specific point in time, usually a calendar year. Okay, this is called age specific fertility rate. Age specific fertility for women in the age group of 15 to 19, as I told you earlier. So we will get the age specific fertility rate, then we will do the grand total of it. Okay, so that after doing the grand total, we will get the total fertility rate. Here, infant mortality rate. To find out the infant mortality rate, we just have to do this formula: number of deaths of babies before the age of 1 year divided by number of births and multiply 1000. So it is just the number of deaths of babies before the age of 1 year as per 1000 live births. But make sure whenever you are finding out this infant mortality rate, you have to study uh, the death of only those babies who are within 0 to 1 year, not more than that. Okay. Maternal mortality rate. What is maternal mortality rate? It refers to the number of women who died in childbirth per 1000 births. Cause high rate of infant and maternal mortality is an indicator for backwardness and poverty. If there is high rate of maternal mortality rate, or you can say high rate of uh, this infant mortality rate, then it means there is some backwardness in that specific country and some poverty is being there. So this is not a good indicator. Life expectancy. It refers to the estimated number of years that an average person is expected to survive. It is calculated on the basis of data on age specific death rates in a given area over a period of time. So life expectancy means what is the expectancy of life expectancy of a person in a specific country. Okay. So, for example, in India, the life expectancy is 67. Means uh, an average person live at least 67 year of life. Now we will see the age structure of the population. It refers to the proportion of person in a different age group relative to the total population. The age structure change in response to change in level of development and the average life expectancy. More people are found in the older age groups compared to the young age group. So age structure of population, it refers to population of a person in a different age group. Just like 0 to 14, then 15 to 59, then 60 plus. That is the age structure of the population. Means a dependent population and working population. Now, sex ratio. Sex ratio refers to the number of females per 1000 male in a given area at a specified period of time. Okay, that is called sex ratio. Now, dependency ratio, that I told you that the working population is called in the age group of 15 to 64, whereas from the age of below the age of 15 and above the age of 64, there is a dependent population. So what formula we have to use? We just have to divide dependent population and we have to do dependent population divided by population population of 15 to 60, means independent population, or we can say working population, and multiply 1000. Then we will get the dependency ratio. Demographic dividend. This is the ideal state and it is very important for the development of a country. If demographic dividend is there, it means the country is at the development level. A rising dependency ratio show that the country will have to provide for more non-earning people, and if more non-earning people means more dependency. So, a failing dependency ratio shows economic growth and prosperity and smaller number of non-earning member. This is known as demographic dividend. How demographic dividend will happen? If the working population is more in comparison to the dependent population, then the demographic dividend will be possible. Okay. So this is about demographic dividend. I hope now you have understood this specific part. So students, make sure you just do the revision of this much part. And one more thing, we will make another video on it, uh, and make sure to revise your notes side by side, whatever being taught to you in the class also, revise them also, and do revise the chapter by using these short videos where I will just describe you the points in short, so that you just recall whatever we are discussing and we are learning in a class. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.